Good morning, ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between.
Good morning.
Valiant civil rights activists fighting for a change in humanity, a change where there was equality in America. Fighting for a change where people with different races could sit together on a bus. The civil rights movement had come to light mainly from the 1950s to the 1960s, but it started before that. This was a time where Black Americans were fighting against the law for equal rights. Some breakthroughs in the civil rights movement were Rosa Parks' Montgomery bus boycott, the March on Selma and Montgomery, and the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. During 1868, the 14th Amendment of the Constitution had granted people of color equal security under the law. Soon after, in 1870, the 15th Amendment, the law then granted African American men the right to vote. This was going well for people of color. They had now gained protection under the law and had got the right to vote, except various white Americans were unhappy with this. Southern white Americans in particular didn't like this, so to keep Black people separated from them, they created a group of laws called Jim Crow. Jim Crow was accepted in the South starting in the late 19th century. Some of the rules of this law were that Black people couldn't live in the same town as whites, nor could they go to the same schools. The schools that Black children had to go to were often called colored schools. The right that many Black men could vote was stripped away from them. There were only a small minority of Black men who could vote after the law was accepted, resulting in complete segregation from one race to another. Martin Luther King was born on Tuesday, January 15th of 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia. Martin Luther King lived with his parents, Martin Luther King Sr. and Alberta Williams King, and two other siblings. He was living in a time where Jim Crow was a continuing law. Growing up, Martin Luther King and other people of color had a line of separation from Caucasians. There were laws prohibiting people from engaging with races different from their own. When dark-skinned families went out to a restaurant, they were only served in the back. If a Black person wanted to ride the bus, they were only allowed to sit in the back. Martin Luther King was born in a time where dark-skinned people were at best just stuck behind the shadows of white people. But Martin Luther King had a dream. He had a dream where there was equality in America, a dream where Black people could be treated the same as whites. On August 28, 1963, the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom took place. 250,000 people in the company of Martin Luther King marched on Washington. This is where Martin Luther King told his famous speech, "I have a dream." Dr. King told the world that he dreamed of being equal to his white brothers and sisters. He told the world that he hoped, quote, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners could sit together at the table of brotherhood, end quote, leaving the protest with more than 200,000 people motivated to support the civil rights movement. Dr. King was assassinated at the peak of his career. At only 39, he was assassinated after he had accomplished so much. Thinking of all Dr. King's accomplishments have inspired me. That a couple of people who were courageous enough to start a protest ended up ending Jim Crow. Even though we still have so much more to do to make America a country full of equality, this is a big improvement from where America had come from. I was also once a person with no rights. In fact, my whole family was. In the early 1990s, more than 100,000 Nepali-speaking citizens living in Bhutan were kicked out by the government of Bhutan and the king, or fled from the small Himalayan kingdom. My parents and I were a part of the Nepalis who were put into refugee camps. My parents were put into a camp called Goda. I was born with no citizenship in either Bhutan or Nepal. After living in Goda refugee camp for almost 2 decades, my parents and I were fortunate enough to have an organization help us migrate to America, the land of the free. The move took more than half a year, but finally my parents and I could dream of having rights. Finally, in 2010, we moved to New Hampshire. We were finally in the land of the dreams, the land where you would be able to get freedom. In 2016, me and my family got citizenship and had freedom in America. Then I became a person with rights, and I chose to use them. I chose to speak up for times when I felt I needed to, and I chose to speak up for times when I felt that was wrong. We should continue to live on through Dr. King and other courageous activists and fight for what we believe is right. We should continue to acknowledge all the courageous civil rights activists for paving the way for America to be a country full of equality. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.